DC film discourse might all be Justice League this and release the Snyder Cut that, but there's another super team fans may want to keep an eye on. The Justice League's forebears, the Justice Society of America, have been slated to appear in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's long-gestating Black Adam film when it finally releases December 2021. News of the JSA's involvement is sure to get longtime DC readers excited, with the group being comprised of some of the more beloved, if not overlooked, DC superheroes of the company's golden age back in the 1940s. Later incarnations have brought together all of the DC Universe's different generations under one banner, but the JSA are still largely synonymous with the publisher's World War II era comics. Given word that Black Adam will be an origin story, the team's involvement actually makes a lot of sense. Not that fans less familiar with the team won't need cluing up on who they are though. Heck, even longtime readers have found the JSA's history rather convoluted, which makes their position in recent DC media all the more intriguing. I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Comics, and here's everything DC fans need to know about the Justice Society of America. Number 5. What is the JSA? The Justice Society of America, or JSA for short, first appeared all the way back in 1940 as the main feature of All-Star Comics number 3. They were DC's first ever super team and brought together a number of the publisher's most popular characters into one book, including The Flash, Hawkman, and Green Lantern. While that was the team's original incarnation, it wasn't the most iconic. Today, arguably the most recognizable version of the JSA comes from Jeff Johns' stint on the book in the mid to late noughties. Johns collaborated on the comic alongside writer David S. Goyer, who co-launched the rebooted JSA alongside James Robinson in 1999. The relaunched JSA took the original team and mixed them with newer characters, placing a key focus on legacy and how integral it was to the DC Universe at large. A later 2006 comic, again led by Johns, presented the most identifiable version of the JSA yet, aided in part by a series of covers from artist Alex Ross. This version of the comic followed the idea that they were the World War II era precursors to the more famous Justice League, but maintained that they were still a group that operated alongside the League in later years. Sound simple? Well, good, because things only get more confusing afterwards. For now, all you need to know is that the JSA are effectively another Justice League, only with more of an intergenerational element at play. Legacy is the name of the game, and the JSA possesses it in spades. Or at least it did until the retcons came along. Number 4. The original Justice League, the JSA's beginnings. As previously mentioned, the Justice Society of America was first introduced in All-Star Comics number 3 in 1940. Co-created by Gardner Fox, Everett E. Hibbard, and Sheldon Mayer, the JSA comprised characters from not just DC, but also all-American publications. The original idea was that everyone serving on the team could only do so if they didn't have their own self-titled comic. If they did, they'd be referred to as honorary members, a title that was even given to Batman and Superman, who were considered founders despite never appearing in the original run of comics. In fact, it would actually take several decades until the story of how they co-founded the team would be revealed, in 1977's DC Special number 29. This is where things start to get really confusing, however. While there's not much to explain about the original JSA other than that they walked, talked, looked, and acted like the Justice League readers are more familiar with, the team would soon find themselves in the grip of frequent retcons that took them completely out of the spotlight. The Silver Age was in, and the Golden Age, as they say, was very much out. Number 3. How retcons changed everything. The words retroactive continuity are enough to fill even the most ardent of comic book fans with dread, because they can effectively render everything that a reader knows about a given character or universe irrelevant. Most of the time, the publishers stroll up like Steve Buscemi, proclaim, "How do you do, fellow kids?" before finding a way to desperately claw back the stuff they'd lost in their most recent effort to stay hip and trendy. But sometimes, oh boy, sometimes, DC and Marvel get lost in this vortex of retcons that they can leave your brain falling out of your nostrils before you know it. Seriously, it's not great. The Justice Society, although not to the degree of characters like Supergirl or other super teams like the Legion of Superheroes, has been dealt a pretty raw deal by DC's retcons. Their original position as the formative DC super team was first dealt a blow during the Silver Age of comics, where DC updated several of their most successful characters. The Flash bore a sleeker design and was no longer Jay Garrick, but instead a scientist called Barry Allen. Likewise, the mystical Green Lantern known as Alan Scott was replaced by a fighter pilot called Hal Jordan, while the Green Lantern mythos mythos itself would switch supernatural pastures for something decidedly more sci-fi. To account for the new versions of Flash and Lantern, and in a bid to recognize the various alternate realities characters like Superman kept winding up in, DC decided to create an official multiverse. The JSA had disappeared for some time when eventually the new and improved Justice League debuted, and the original reason given by the publisher was that their adventures were located on a different universe, specifically Earth 1. Later retcons established the JSA as the official precursor to the Justice League, however, with the two teams even teaming up repeatedly during the Bronze Age of comics in the 70s and 80s. It was at this time that the heroes in the group were established as being physically older than their younger counterparts, an image that has stuck ever since. But it wasn't long before the JSA were toyed with yet again, being actively stricken from mainstream DC continuity during the cataclysmic events of Crisis on Infinite Earths. The JSA's fate was resolved in the last days of the Justice Society one-shot, which left only Dr. Fate, Power Girl, the Star-Spangled Kid, and the Spectre as the team's sole survivors. DC would later publish comics to fill in the JSA's history, including the previously mentioned DC Special number 29, which expanded upon the group's origins. But their popularity had seemingly waned, no doubt helped in part by the sheer array of retcons that had been inflicted on them time and time again. It wouldn't be until Jeff Johns' run that the group really settled into the post-crisis DCEU, long after all those retcons had firmly established the group's in-universe history. Here, they were always a part of the main continuity, and they remained that way until the New 52, a company-wide reboot designed to once again streamline DC continuity, but one that only ended up making it more confusing. The New 52 re-established the team as being from an alternate Earth, this time Earth 2. However, this too wouldn't last, and as DC once more opted for another refresh, the status of the JSA was thrown in doubt. Oh god, please help me, it's too much to bear. Fortunately, and I do mean this despite not being a big fan of the final issue, the recent conclusion to Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's Doomsday Clock has restored the JSA to active continuity. In fact, they're pivotal to the series, with the JSA's return proving decisive in remolding the fabric of the DCEU and restoring it to something ultimately more familiar before Manhattan, a clear proxy for DC editorial, changed it beyond recognition. I'm gonna go have a lie down now. Number 2. The link to Black Adam. Right, so with the information overload done, dusted, and pretty much dead, I bet you're all asking what this has to do with Black Adam. It's a question regular readers and those unfamiliar with the Justice Society have both been asking, but the answer comes back to one run in particular, which just so happens to be the team's most important in the modern age of comics, the Jeff Johns one. 2019 Shazam pulled heavily from his New 52 run on the character, and given Johns also had Billy Batson on the team at one stage in his comic, it makes sense for the JSA to be introduced in that way. Likewise, Johns' run also saw the JSA come up against Black Adam, and while The Rock's film is set to present a more heroic take on the character, it's still a prequel, and anything set in and around the 1940s is clearly going to feature the JSA in some role or another. Still, all that said, the JSA never played an active role in Teth Adams' origin. It was only in his later years that Black Adam crossed paths with the team, and eventually even joined them as a reformed villain. Slowly but surely, the other Society members came around to Adam, with Shazam the most reluctant to do so until his old nemesis eventually parted ways with the group and formed his own more lethal super team. With the Black Adam film set to be a prequel though, there's only one way that I can see the JSA getting involved. Number 1. Will Black Adam help co-found the JSA in the DCEU? Not much is known about the plot to the Black Adam film other than that it will be an origin story. If the JSA are involved, we can probably surmise that Adam will either clash with the team or become a founding member. If the idea is to sell a sort of downfall ahead of his clash with Billy Batson in the Shazam sequel, then it would make sense to lead with the latter, which could lead to some really exciting new avenues, as well as opportunities to take beats from those earlier arcs that featured Adam as a key figure in the JSA. Black Adam owes a lot of his resurgence to the work Johns and co did on JSA, and in later story arcs that further developed the character's backstory and approach to crime fighting. He's certainly of the name or mold, and maybe even like Black Panther if we can compare Kahndaq to Wakanda, in the sense that he's not just a hero or villain. He's a ruler with responsibilities to look after an entire nation of peoples. He also isn't afraid to walk his own path, even while aligning himself with his particular super team. Ultimately, fans may not have thought the JSA would be a natural pick to include in the Black Adam origin story, but taking into account how the character's resurgence coincided with his arrival on the team, as well as the fascinating dynamics that opens up, their inclusion begins to make more and more sense by the day. And yeah, that was our little primer on what the JSA are all about and what viewers may expect from them when they appear in Black Adam in 2021. Let me know if you're excited down in the comments below, and please be sure to like the video and hit the notification bell, as it really does help us out. You can find more articles like this at whatculture.com/comics and more of me on Twitter at @EwanRunesThings. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go lie down. Retcons really break my brain.